What's up, everybody? For YouTube, Washington Nationals available for $100 if you want the spot. How's it going, everybody on eBay? How we doing tonight, guys? We have the Washington Nationals right now available for $100. If anybody wants the Washington Nationals, we have that spots available for $100. Let me know. We will send you an invoice. If you're in the break, we'll send you an invoice with no shipping. If you're not in the break, it's $5 shipping. Washington Nationals, $100. That gets you Seaver King. That gets you James Wood, Dylan Cruz, if anybody wants them, let me know. If anybody wants to make me an offer on them, a reasonable offer on them, while I'm getting the boxes out. Once the boxes are out and the first box is open, we're going to go ahead and just house the team. Boxes. Anybody want Washington? I'm opening the first box. Arnett Met. You want the Washington Nationals at $100? We will send you an invoice if you want them. You do not want them, okay? Alright, first box is being opened. You heard Mets. Okay, bud, no problem. Anybody want to make me an offer for $80? $80 for the Washington Nationals. Three autos per box. We're just starting, this is box number 1. We have the Washington Nationals available. I will take $80 if you want them. Let's go Rangers, Da says. All right. Here we go. I know, ain't that true, bro? Here we go, my friends. Box number 1. There's James Wood to start us off. Red, we got Ryan Sloan. That's Seattle. Seattle Ryan Sloan, 257 out of 299. Yogi Berra on the silver prism. First prismatic is James Triantos. James Triantos. That is Chase Meadroth. That is for the Chicago White Sox. Chase Meadroth, 345 out of 499. Justin Upton on the red wave, not numbered. That is Marcelo Mayer on the talisman. On the Thomas Harrington on the red hyper, 67 out of 99. 67 of 99. Alex Freeland for the Dodgers. That is on the Prizm, Silver Prizm, and I think this is our first auto. Is that, no, it's not. It's a Gold Dingers. Gold Dingers of Braden Montgomery. That is also not numbered. That is a Dingers of Braden Montgomery. So I've been off for a full week, guys. I don't know, man. How am I doing so far? It's been a while. It's been a while. I kind of like feel like I've lost it a little bit. What do you guys think? Am I doing okay? Here we go, second stack. We got a first auto going to the Dodgers. That is Kellen Lindsey on the Prizm Auto Prospect Signatures. Kellen Lindsey Prospect Signatures, that's for the Dodgers. And how about that one? That's nice right there. Aaron Judge on the blue. Blue Aaron Judge, 194 out of 199 going to the Yankees. Behind that, we got Arjun Namala on the red wave. That should be, this red wave is not numbered. Slade Caldwell for the Diamondbacks on the fireworks. Robin Yount on the Hyper to 499. That is 19 out of 499. Silver Prizm, Joe DiMaggio for the Yankees. Jacob Wilson on the Prismatic. All right, blah. We got a green scope of Jonah Tong. Jonah Tong for the Mets. That's 50 out of 75. And our next auto goes to the Padres. Sensational signatures of Boston Bateman. Talisman of Chase Burns for the Reds. All right, here we go. That is Darryl Strawberry on the red. That is to 299. 25 out of 299. Grady Sizemore on the Silver Prizm. That's Bubba Chandler on the fireworks for the Pirates. Blake Burke for Milwaukee on the Hyper to 499. 322 out of 499. Zaire Hope for the Dodgers on the red wave. Christian Moore Talisman for the Angels. Purple Braden Taylor for Tampa Bay. Purple Braden Taylor. That is a 113 out of 149. Blake Mitchell Silver Prizm. Ken Griffey Jr. on the Dingers. Last of box number 1. Dick Allen on the for the Phillies on the red to 299. That's 220 out of 299. Thomas Sagasi. That is Rhett Lauder on the Silver Prizm Prismatic. That is going to the Cincinnati Reds. There's Rhett Lauder right behind it again. Ken Griffey Jr. on the Hyper to 499. That is 152 out of 499. Cal Ripken on the Silver Prizm. Travis Bazzana, Cleveland Firework. Lou Gehrig on the blue to 199. Our last auto is right behind that. That's Roman Anthony for the Red Sox. Rintaro Sasaki goes to the other spot. Lou Gehrig to 199. That is 75 of 199. And our last auto goes to the Brew Crew. That is Josh Noth. Josh Noth for the Brewers. Box number 2. All right, box number 2. Here we go. Red. That is 70 out of 99. 70-99. That is Nick Kurtz rookie. A Nick Kurtz rookie card. Our next auto is red. That is Thatcher Hurd. That one is going to the Yankees. 97 out of 99. I believe it's Yankees. Wow, will you do me a favor? Check Thatcher Hurd if he's Yankees or Mets. I can never remember. James Tibbs on the Dingers. James Tibbs on the Dingers. Johnny Farmello, blue. Johnny Farmello, that is 93 out of 199. Cam Smith on the Silver Prizm. Travis Bazzana on the Talisman. Griff O'Farrell to 499. That is 71 of 499. Owen Cassay, Red Wave. Connor Griffin on the Prismatic. Purple, Jeff Bagwell to 149. Jeff Bagwell, 108 of 149. Larry Walker on the Silver Prizm. Chase Dolander on the Firework. There's our next auto. That one is for the Yankees. That I know for sure. That is George Lombard Jr. on the Prospect Signatures for the Yankees. George Lombard Jr. That one is not numbered. right, we got Mike Schmidt on the red to 299. 62 of 299. Give me a couple more minutes, okay? Because I had to start the break. Like 2 or 3 minutes. Zach Veen on the red wave. Jim Tomey on the dingers. Luis Angel Acuna to 499. Yeah. Pudge Rodriguez on the silver prism. Talisman of Roman Anthony. That is Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz to 499. We have an auto behind that. That is a sensational signature of Malcolm Moore for the Texas Rangers. Texas Rangers, there you go, duh. Malcolm Moore autograph. Heard as a Yankee. That's what I thought. Thank you very much. Blah, I appreciate that. I got a talisman of Colson Montgomery. Green scope, that's Grady Sizemore for the Guardians. That is 35 of 75. Ryan Zimmerman on the silver prism. Firework of Hyuk-Sung Kim. We got orange coming. Jace Lavalette goes to the other spot. He doesn't have a team in this. I know he has a team now, but if there's no team on there, it goes to the other spot. Arizona, Min Lin, blue, 123 of 199. Cecil Fielder on the orange wave. Orange wave, 24 out of 49. Bubba Chandler on the talisman. It's a start, right, Da? It's a start. Chris Davis to 499 for Baltimore. That is Dylan Cruz on the silver prism. That is 30-34 to 499. Deion Sanders, that one's going to the Yankees, Deion, on the prismatic. Enrique Bradfield Jr. for Baltimore. That is 75 of 299. Kyle Teal on the red wave. That's a dinger of James Wood. That is a red dinger. Red dinger, 162 out of 199. Yumin Lin to 499. 34, 499. Josh Gibson. That goes to the non-MLB or the other spot, and non-MLB and other spot. That is Paul Skeens on the fireworks, and that is box number 2. Box number 2. You can take that whole box right there. Box number 3. Box number 3. Ah, no problem, Dad. I got you, bud. right, box number 3. Here we go. That is a blue Chase Dollander. Chase Dollander blue, 10 out of 199. Miguel Cabrera on the silver Prizm. Christian Campbell on the dingers. That's for the Red Sox. Travis Bozana going to Cleveland, 499. 295 out of 499. You got Luke Dickerson on the red wave, not numbered. Franklin Arias for the Red Sox fireworks. Miguel Cabrera purple. Purple to 149. That is 138 out of 149. Jacob Wilson on the silver Prizm for the Oakland Athletics. Bryce Rainier prismatic for Detroit. Our next auto, that's a Pulsar actually. Pulsar signature of Blake Mitchell for Kansas City. Blake Mitchell, Kansas City on the Pulsar auto. That one is 182 out of 199. 182 out of 199. Aaron Judge, that's red to 299. Red to 299. Aaron Judge, that's 171 out of 299. Brett Lauder on the red wave. Hae Sung Kim for the Dodgers on the talisman. Billy Martin to 499. 110 of 499. That is Ching Sin Ko. That's for the Dodgers on the silver Prizm. George Lombard, Yankees firework. Kumar Rocker on the red checkerboard. That is 33 out of 99. 33 out of 99. Auto behind it goes to Texas. Doubling up on his autos. There's Cliff Lee. Cliff Lee, legend pitcher for the Texas Rangers. Not numbered. Paul Skeens on the talisman. Blue, Trey Savage. Just got his first start the other day. Got called up by Toronto. 49 of 199. Earl Combs, that's for the New York Yankees. Tommy White on the dingers. Alex Freeland, Pulsar. That is 256 out of 499. That is true gold of Miguel Cabrera to 10. Miguel Cabrera, 8 out of 10 on the true gold. That's for Detroit. Nice hit for Detroit. Jack Leiter on the fireworks. Billy Mick for Minnesota on the red to 299. 231 out of 299. Tom Seaver on the silver Prizm. Dylan Cruz on the prismatic. There's Eddie Collins. That's the Chicago White Sox. Chicago White Sox. 302 of 499. Ty Cobb on the Red Wave. That's for Detroit. Red Talisman. That's going to San Diego. That is Leo Tavares. 169 out of 199. Purple, Reggie Jackson going to Oakland. Purple Reggie Jackson to Oakland. 46 out of 149. Ty Cobb on the Silver Prizm for Detroit. Chase Dollander on the Talisman. Harmon Killebrew for Minnesota to 299. Our last auto is Alex Ramirez for the Mets. Alex Ramirez for the Mets on the sensational signatures. This one is not numbered. Kalen Culpepper on the dingers. Box number 4. All right, dude. All right, box number 4. Here we go. Harmon Killebrew to 499. That is 76 of 499. Andrew Walters on the Silver Prizm. There's Chase Dollander for Colorado on the Talisman. There's a sick auto right there. Jacob Wilson for the Oakland A's. Blue rookie auto, 42 out of 49. 42 of 49 on the auto. Nice hit for the A's. That's a good one right there. Don Drysdale to 499. 214 out of 499. Levi Sterling on the Red Wave. Dylan Cruz Prismatic. Purple, that's for Texas. That's Brock Porter. Brock Porter, 143 of 149. Drew Barris. That goes to the other spot. That is a college Georgia Tech player going to the other spot. Jack Leiter on the fireworks. red, Roy Campanella for the Dodgers. That is the Brooklyn LA Dodgers, 72 out of 299. That's Max Anderson. Max Anderson on the sensational signatures. That's going to Detroit. That is a Pulsar auto to 199, 46 out of 199. Dingers of Tommy White. Tommy White on the dingers. That is Tyson Neighbors to 499, 48 of 499. Colson Montgomery on the Silver Prism. Paul Skeens on the Talisman. Oh, there we go. Cherry Blossoms incoming. George Lombard Fireworks. Green Scope of Carson Williams. Green Scope Carson Williams, 5 out of 75. And our Cherry Blossom goes to the Dodgers. That is Roy Campanella. Roy Campanella for the Dodgers. 20 out of 20 on the Cherry Blossoms. That is a sick, sick card. Nice hit for the Dodgers spot. Pedro Martinez to 299. 211 of 299. Hagen Smith on the Silver Prism. Talisman of Hyosung Kim. Sammy Sosa to 499. 82 of 499. Tom Glavine. That's on the red wave. Dingers. That's a red dingers of Vlad Guerrero Sr. going to the Angels. 144 out of 199. Orange wave, Spencer Arrighetti for Houston. Spencer Arrighetti for Houston. That is a 48 out of 49. Roger Clemens for the Blue Jays on the Silver Prism. Bryce Rainier on the Prismatic. Ethan Holiday, that's going to the other spot. That is going to the other spot. It is listed as a non-team at the moment because this is before the draft. Kevin McGonigal on the blue. Kevin McGonigal, 19 out of 199. 19 out of 199. Our next auto goes to the Tampa Bay Rays. That is Mac Horvath. Mac Horvath, Tampa Bay Rays, 30 out of 99 on the red auto. Red auto. Franklin Arias, Fireworks. That is Whitey Ford to 499 for the New York Yankees. That is 87 out of 499. Tyson Neighbors for the Padres. That's a dinger of Kristen Campbell, Red Sox. Purple Cam Smith. Purple Cam Smith for Houston. That is 27 out of 149. Aaron Judge on the red wave. Talisman of Christian Campbell. And that, my friends, is box number 4. All right, box number 5. Box number 5. All right, box number 5. Here we go. Red, Jim Rice to 99. Jim Rice to 99, 62 of 99. Cecil Fielder Silver Prism. Christian Moore on the Fireworks. Blue, that's Theo Gilliam. Theo Gilliam, Tampa Bay. That is 110 out of 199. Don Mattingly, Red Wave. Travis Bazzana, Prismatic. Pudge Rodriguez to 499. Yvonne Rodriguez for Texas. 470 out of 499. Max Muncy, that's on the Silver Prism. Jesus Made on the Talisman. That is our first auto. First auto goes to the Arizona Diamondbacks of this box. That is Jordan Lawler on the Sensational Signatures, not numbered. Roger Clemens, purple for the Blue Jays. 143 out of 149. Carter Johnson, Red Wave. Vlad Guerrero on the Dingers. Chris Davis, red. That is to 299. 137 of 299. Brady Ebel. That one goes to the other spot on the Silver Prism. Tommy White on the Fireworks. Dick Allen. That is on to 499. Dick Allen to 499 on the Pulsar, 92 out of 499. And our next auto goes to the Miami Marlins. Miami Marlins, that is Sensational Signature, Noble Miller. Noble Miller, not numbered on the Sensational Signatures. Aiden Miller for the Phillies, Prismatic. Got orange. Orange, that is Tony La Russa going to the St. Louis Cardinals. That is 44 out of 49. Tony La Russa. Carson Bench for the Mets. Silver Prism. Dingers of Jace Lavalette. Jace Lavalette. Again, that will be a other spot. He does not have a team in this. Tony Olivia, Minnesota Twins. We got another Cherry Blossom. That is Bert Campaneris for the Oakland A's. Tony Olivia was 228 out of 299. Bert Campaneris is 4 out of 20. 4 out of 20. Christian Moore on the Prismatic. Tim Hudson to 499. That is 172 out of 499 for Oakland. Emilian Petrie, Silver Prism for Tampa Bay. Talisman of Dylan Cruz. Blue, that is Tris Speaker for the Boston Red Sox. Tris Speaker, 54 out of 199. Matt Horvath on the Red Wave. Talisman Blue, that is Jesus Made. Jesus Made on the Blue Talisman. That is 23 out of 99. 23 of 99. Bobby Richardson to 499, going to the New York Yankees. 454 out of 499. Tom Glavine, Silver Prism. Cam Smith on the Dingers for Houston. Slade Caldwell for the Diamondbacks on the purple. Slade Caldwell on the purple. That is Kellen Lindsey. Fireworks. Slade Caldwell on the purple. And our last auto of this box, that's 118 out of 149 on the Caldwell, goes to the Miami Marlins. That is Carter Johnson. Carter Johnson on the sensational signatures for the Miami Marlins. All right, box number 6. Box number 6. All right, box number 6, here we go. Ethan Holiday on the blue. Again, that goes to the non-MLB spot, or the other spot, it's called. That one is 118 out of 199. Our first auto of this box for the Giants, Josur Gonzalez. Josur Gonzalez on the sensational signatures not numbered. We got a dingers of Cam Smith. To 499, Brady House. Brady House to 499, 28 out of 499. Jack Leiter on the Silver Prism. Talisman of Dylan Cruz. We got purple. That is Dante Nori for the Phillies. And that is 87 out of 149. James Wood. James Wood. That is 3 out of 25. 3 out of 25. Prismatic of Christian Moore. Brooks Lee. Brooks Lee on the blue. That's for Minnesota. That is 168 out of 199. What's up, Scott? Hello to you, too. Our next auto is Joseph Redfield. Joseph Redfield. I will have to look that up. I'm not sure if that's Angels or Dodgers. I think it's Angels based off the colors on the back. Usually these would be blue for the Dodgers. So Joseph Redfield, sensational signatures. That one is 40 out of 99. I'm going to say Angels on that, but I will double check it. Tommy White on the fireworks. Dalton Rushing. Dalton Rushing, that is 463 out of 499. Owen Hall on the Silver Prism. Dingers of Vlad Guerrero Sr. We got a red of Johnny Bench to 299. 122 out of 299. Albert Pujols on the red wave. Talisman of Jesus Made. Red, that's Mike Piazza for the Mets. Mike Piazza for the Mets, 229 out of 299. Arjun Namala for the Blue Jays on the Silver Prism. Dingers of Jace Lavolette. That again is going to the other spot. Hagen Smith to 499 on the Pulsar. 107 of 499. Junior Caminero. That is on the red wave. And on, ooh, that's a nice Firework Mojo. That is a Rhett Lauder Firework Mojo to 25. 1 out of 25. First off the press, going to the Reds. Ozzie Smith on the red checkerboard. That is 53 out of 99. Bobby Witt Jr. on the Silver Prism. Prismatic Aiden Miller for the Phillies. Vlad Guerrero for Montreal going to the Washington Nationals. Slade Caldwell for the Diamondbacks on the Pulsar to 499. 30 out of 49. Braylon Payne on the Silver Prism. Prismatic of Travis Bazana. That is a sick Pudge Rodriguez auto going to the Texas Rangers. That is 6 out of 49. This is on the new, what is this called again? It's a new one. It's called a, is this a groovy, I think, auto? Or, I don't know, but it's sick. It's red, and it's going to Texas. Whew. Let's go. Justin Upton going to Atlanta. That is 65 out of 149. Jadixon Paez for the Red Sox on the Red Wave. Christian Moore on the Firework. That's 3 autos for Texas. Manny Ramirez for Boston to 299. 63 of 299. Grover Alexander. That is going to the Chicago White Sox on the Silver Prism. Rentaro Sasaki going to the other spot on the Dingers. That's our halfway point. I'm going to try something different on this box. I'm going to try and do them one at a time. Packs. See how fast we can get it done. What is this? Yeah, that's not going to be fun. Okay, here we go. David Ortiz on the red to 99. 32 of 99. Gary Sheffield silver. Christian Moore prismatic. That is Slade Caldwell on the auto. Slade Caldwell going to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Prospect signatures. Not numbered. Reggie Jackson going to the A's to 499. Roger Clemens on the Red Wave. Dylan Cruz talisman. Colt Keith, Jordan Lawler, Dingers of Cam Smith. Trey Savage to 499, 491 of 499. Lou Gehrig, Kellen Lindsey. Blue, that's Dason Hill for Minnesota. That is 57 out of 199. David Shields, Silver Prism, James Triantos. Earl Combs, we got a redemption. 45 out of 299. We have a redemption. Talisman is Marcelo Mayer. Our redemption Sensational Signatures Prizm Blue. That is Prizm Blue. That is $249. Jake Bloss. Jake Bloss, that's the Milwaukee Brewers. Milwaukee Brewers on the Jake Bloss. That's Prince Fielder to $299. 237 out of 299. Trey Savage, silver. Dingers of Braden Montgomery. What case hit, Nicholas? I don't remember seeing a case hit yet. Franklin Arias. Franklin Arias for the Red Sox. 100 of 149. Nick York on the Red Wave. There it is. Right there's your case hit. Aaron Judge Color Blast. Aaron Judge Color Blast. There it is. Bang. For the Yankees. Aaron Judge on the Color Blast. Oh, you told me. Coming in this box. Well, you made the right call, brother. You made the right call. Because that was a definite Color Blast case hit. J.D. Dix for Arizona Blue. That is 131 out of 199. Prince Fielder on the Silver Prizm. Slade Caldwell. Now we got a snake skin. How about 2 Color Blasts, Nicholas? 2 Color Blasts. Here we go. Prince Fielder on the blue. That is to 149. Jacob Wilson. Our Color Blast is Miguel Cabrera. Miggy on the color on the snake skin. Miggy on the snake skin. Yeah. Bang. Lazaro Montas to 299 for Seattle. 173 of 299. Alex Rodriguez Silver Prizm for Seattle. That was Chase Burns. Rod Carew on the blue to 149 or 199. And then our next auto is sick. Our next auto is sick. How about big Tommy White? Tommy White for Oakland on the red auto prismatic 26 out of 49 with the Christmas colors. Well, I tell you, if somebody had bought that box as a Percy, they crushed on that box. There's Bubba Chandler. Box number 8. right, this is box number 8. Box number 8. We got an orange wave of Trey Morgan. Trey Morgan on the orange wave. That is 7 out of 49. 7 out of 49 for Tampa Bay. Robbie Snelling for the Miami Marlins. Robbie Snelling, prospect signature, Miami. Not numbered. Prismatic of Cam Smith for Houston. Matt Horvath, that's for Tampa Bay, red. That is 221 out of 299. Kumar Rocker for the Silver Prizm Texas Rangers. Ethan Holiday, again, going to the other spot. That one is on the dingers. We got a Mojo coming up here. Mojo. We got Harmon Killebrew to $4.99. Jesus made on the Prismatic. Harmon Killebrew $4.99. That is 30 out of $4.99. And our Mojo to 25 is Gerangelo Cinchte. That is to 25 for the Seattle Mariners. 5 out of 25. 5 of 25. Vance Honeycutt for the Baltimore Orioles. That is 162 out of 199. Ryan Sloan, Silver Prizm. There is James Tibbs on the Fireworks. Don Drysdale for the Dodgers to $4.99. 177 of $4.99. Red Wave of Junior Caminero for Tampa. That is Jacob Wilson on the Prismatic. That one is red. 18 out of 99 on the red Prismatic. Purple to 1 of 49. That's Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson, 126 out of 149. Christy Mathewson, that's for the San Francisco Giants on the Silver Prizm. Dylan Cruz on the dingers for Washington. All cards ship. I know there's a ton of them, but all cards ship, guys. However many teams you bought, all cards ship. Here we go. Back to box number 8. That is Al Kaline for Detroit. Al Kaline for Detroit, 243 out of 299. And our next auto is right behind it. That is for the Cincinnati Reds. That is Hunter Hollan on the red sensational signature to 99. That is 53 out of 99. 53 of 99. Hunter Hollan for the Cincinnati Reds. Talisman of Leo Tavares. Pulsar of Tyson Neighbors to $4.99. 200 out of $4.99. Colt Keith on the Silver Prizm. Seaver King on the Prismatic. Rod Carew on the red checkerboard. 36 out of 99. Hagen Smith on the red wave. Chase Burns Fireworks. We got blue of Aaron 109 Escobar. That is 109 out of 199. Lazaro Montas, Seattle Dingers of Marcelo Mayers for the Red Sox. That is a Matt Shaw auto. Matt Shaw, red auto for the Chicago Cubs. 84 out of 99. Red auto, Matt Shaw for the Cubbies. Sammy Sosa on the Pulsar to 499. 33 out of 499. David Shields for Kansas City, red wave. Ethan Salas on the Talisman. We have a green scope of James Triantos. That's also for the Cubs. That is 33 out of 75. Mariano Rivera, the greatest closer of all times on the Silver Prizm. That's Cam Caminiti for the Atlanta Braves. And that is box number 8. Box number 8. 4 to go. Alrighty. Let me get all this Prizm dust out of here real quick. There we go. Let me grab some more top loaders because this set has a ton of top loaders. Quick drink. And then we are on to the final 4. Box number 9. Box number 9. Alright, box number 9. Let's rock and roll. Pulsar of Harmon Killebrew to 499. 382 out of 499. Theo Gillen on the Silver Prizm for Tampa Bay. Connor Griffin on the Fireworks. We got a red checkerboard of James Tibbs for the Giants. James Tibbs, 66 of 99. Chase DeLauder on the red wave. George Lombard on the Prismatic for the Yankees. Blue, Andrew Walters, that's for Cleveland. That is to 199, 34 out of 199. Boston Bateman for the Padres on the Silver Prizm. That's David Ortiz on the Dingers. That is our first auto of this box. It's Kalen Culpepper. Great prospect for the Minnesota Twinkies. The Twins prospect, Kalen Culpepper. This one is not numbered. That's Brandon Sprout for the Mets. Brandon Sprout for the Mets on the Pulsar. That is 170 out of 499. That is a red wave of Manny Ramirez. Chase Dollander on the Prismatic. Penny sleeve top load on those. And those are just penny sleeve. Just penny sleeve. Thank you, sir. That is Monte Irvin. Monte Irvin, that's going to the New York Giants. That's the San Francisco Giants, 172 out of 299. Sammy Sosa Silver Prism. Talisman of Luis Angel Acuna for the Mets. Charlie Condon for Colorado to 499 on the Pulsar. Bobby Miller, that's for the Dodgers on that auto. For the Dodgers on the Sensational Signatures. Miguel Cabrera on the Dingers. Now we can look at this Bobby Miller on the Pulsar auto. This one should be numbered 41 out of 199. 41 of 199. That's going to the Dodgers. All right, here we go. Purple, Lou Gehrig for the Yankees. That is to 149. 70 of 149. Pablo Sandoval for the Giants. Nick Kurtz on the Fireworks. Jeff Bagwell on the red. Jeff Bagwell, that is 216 out of 299. Christy Mathewson on the red wave. Kumar Rocker on the Prismatic. Mariano Rivera on the Pulsar. That is 54 out of 499. Paul Konerko for the Dodgers on the Silver Prism. Bryce Eldridge for the Giants Talisman. We have green. That is Luke Keyshaw. Luke Keyshaw to 75. That is for the Minnesota Twins. 1 out of 75. Griff O'Farrell. That's Griff O'Farrell on the red wave for Baltimore. And that is a blue dingers going to Boston. Blue dingers going to Boston. That is 81 out of 99. 81 of 99. Blue, Eddie Collins. That is to 199. 52 of 199. That's going to the Chicago White Sox. Don Mattingly for the Yankees, Silver Prism. Hideki Matsui for the Yankees on the Dingers. Mariano Rivera to 499 on the Pulsar. 60 out of 499. Red Louder. And our last auto of this box is a Mojo auto of Javi Lopez. Haven't heard that name in a little while. Going to the Atlanta Braves. Javi Lopez. That is 19 out of 25. 19 out of 25. Javi Lopez. 3 boxes to go. What am I doing? Did I have it right the first time? No. All right, box number 10. Box number 10. Luis Baez, blue. That is to 199. 193 out of 199. Albert Pujols on the silver prism for St. Louis. Ha-Sung Kim. Our first auto, and that's a sick one for the Milwaukee Brewers. That is a big one right there. Jesus Made, top prospect for the Brew Crew. Not numbered. Noble Mayer for Miami. Noble Mayer, 77 out of 499. Carson Bench for the Mets, Red Wave. Bubba Chandler on the Talisman. Dick Allen on the red to 299. 145 out of 299. Josh Gibson to the other spot on the silver prism. Deion Sanders on the prismatic. Pulsar of Colt Keith. That's for Detroit to 499. Detroit to 499. 182 out of 499. Next auto goes to the Philadelphia Phillies. That's Dante Nori on the Sensational Signatures red. 40 out of 99. Paul Skeens on the Fireworks. Red checkerboard Bryce Eldridge for the Giants. That is 69 of 99. Mac Horvath on the silver prism for Tampa Bay. James Tibbs on the dingers for the Giants. Whitey Ford, that goes to the Yankees on the blue to 199. 114 of 199. Tommy Troy, Red Wave. Travis Bazzana for Talisman for Cleveland. Tekoa Roby for the St. Louis Cardinals. That's to $4.99. $4.39 out of $4.99. Whitey Ford for the Yankees on the Silver Prism. Connor Griffin for Pittsburgh on the Prismatic. That's Kobe Mayo for the Orioles on the red to $2.99. $151 out of $2.99. Pudge Rodriguez, Silver Prism for Texas. Chase Dollander for Colorado Fireworks. Ian Kinsler for Texas on the purple to $149. 60 of $149. Andrew Walters, red wave. Talisman red of Luis Angel Acuna. That should be to $199. 54 of $199 on the Talisman red. Jet Williams for the Mets. That's on the Pulsar to $4.99. Pulsar to $4.99. Auto, sensational signature for Cincinnati. That is Hector Rodriguez. Hector Rodriguez. This one is not numbered. Jim Thome on the dingers for Cleveland. Green scope, that is Ken Griffey Sr. to 75. 45 of 75. Marcelo Mayer Silver Prism. Talisman of Roman Anthony. Those were both for the Red Sox. Andy Van Slyke for Pittsburgh on the red to $2.99. That is 286 out of 299. Yogi Berra on the red wave. Cam Smith on the prismatic. And that is box number 10. Box number 11. All right, box number 11. Here we go. That is a purple Braylon Doty. Braylon Doty for Cleveland. That is 70 out of 149. Fireworks of Travis Bazzana. Elston Howard. That is for the New York Yankees. New York Yankees. 294 out of 299. Zaire Hope on the Silver Prism. Ken Griffey Jr. on the Dingers. We got another Cherry Blossom. Another cherry blossom coming. Christian Moore on the Talisman. Travis Bazana on the Pulsar to $4.99. That is $3.91 out of $4.99. And our new cherry blossom. Next cherry blossom is for Seattle. That's Gerangelo Cinchte. And that one is 1 out of 20. First off the press, print out of 20. First off the print out of 20. Green scope. That was Kendall George for the Dodgers. Kendall George for the Dodgers. That green scope to 75. 43 out of 75. Silver Prism of Griff O'Farrell for Baltimore. Griff O'Farrell. Bubba Chandler on the Fireworks. Paul O'Neill for the Yankees. Blue to 199, 152 out of 199. Tony Olivia on the red wave. That is a red firework of Nick Kurtz, possibly AL MVP or Rookie of the Year. 6 out of 199. 6 out of 199. Pulsar, Bert Campaneris to $4.99. 43 out of $4.99. Aiden Miller on the Silver Prism. Talisman of Chase Burns. John Smoltz on the red. That red is numbered 259 of 299, and our auto is Angel Chivilli for the Colorado Rockies. Angel Chivilli or Chivilli. And that is for the Colorado Rockies, not numbered. Prismatic is Jacob Wilson. Jacob Wilson on the Prismatic. George Lombard for the Yankees on the Pulsar. 7 out of 499. Brody Brecht for Colorado Silver Prism. Slade Caldwell for Arizona on the Fireworks. Red checkerboard of Alex Rodriguez for Seattle. Alex Rodriguez, 23 of 99. Connor Norby on the red wave. Dingers of Braden Montgomery for the White Sox. Jay Slavolek going to the other spot. That is a blue, 47 out of 199. Trey Morgan on the Silver Prism. Talisman of Marcelo Mayer for the Red Sox. We got a blue auto. That one is for Detroit. That is Bryce Rainier. Bryce Rainier on the blue auto for Detroit. That one is 22 out of 49. 22 of 49. Jacob Wilson on the Pulsar to $4.99, 265 of $4.99. Josue De Paula on the red wave for the Dodgers. Oh, another auto. Durangelo Cinchte. That's for Seattle on the sensational signatures, not numbered. Sensational signature, not numbered. Seattle. James Triantos on the fireworks. Purple. Nick York for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Juan Gonzalez for Texas on the silver prism. Kellen Lindsey on the firework for the Dodgers. And we are down to box number 12. Box number 12. Final box. Box set number 7 had all the fun. It had the color blast. It had the snake skin. Can box number 12 have a little fun for you guys? Let's go. All right. Final 12 packs right there. Let's move these forward just a tad. There we go. Do a full recap after this. Here we go. Pulsar Junior Caminero out of $4.99. That is 418 out of $4.99. First auto goes to the Mets out of this box. First auto, that is Carson Bench. That's going to be a red auto. Prismatic of Red Lauder. That is a red auto of Carson Bench for the Mets. That one is 93 out of 99. 93 of 99. Jack Leiter on the Pulsar. 486 out of 499. Will Wagner for Toronto. That is on a Mojo auto to 25. Will Wagner to 25. 21 of 25. 21 of 25. Tristan Campbell on the Talisman. We will recap this whole break, all the hits after this box. Kyle Teal for the White Sox. That one is 129 out of 299. Monte Irvin for the Giants. Chase Burns on the Prismatic. Harry Ford for Seattle. That is to 75. 69 of 75. Christy Mathewson for the Giants on the red wave. That is a Mojo firework of my boy Spencer Jones for the Yankees. This kid's going to be so good. That is numbered 7 out of 25. 7 out of 25. We are on the last box, guys. We'll do a recap after this. Leo Tavares to 499 for the Padres. 464 out of 499. Kevin Alcantara for the Cubs on the silver prism. Carson Williams on the fireworks. Christian Scott for the Mets. Christian Scott. That is 33 out of 299. Miles Naylor for the A's on the red wave. Reggie Jackson, that's a dingers for the Yankees. Enrique Bradfield on the purple. That is to 149. 91 of 149. Bert Campaneris, Oakland, silver prism. Spencer Jones on the talisman. Five packs to go. Blue, Cam Caminiti. That's for the Atlanta Braves. 79 of 199. For Washington, Shinosuke Ogasawara on the silver prism. Albert Pujols on the dingers. That is Jack Leiter on the autograph for Texas. Da picking up his fourth auto for Texas. This one is a Pulsar to 199. 84 out of 199. Anthony, did you need these? Brock Porter for Texas. That is to 99 on the red checkerboard. 7 of 99. Red Wave, Levi Wells. Hagen Smith for the White Sox. Last three packs. Ethan Salas for the Padres. Pulsar to 499. 387 out of 499. Cooper Pratt silver prism. Spencer Jones fireworks. That is Trey Savage to 299. That is Don Mattingly on the Mojo to 25. Mojo to 25. 11 out of 25. Don Mattingly for the Yankees. And my favorite player of all times. Jackson Chourio for Milwaukee on the dingers. Savage was 40 out of 299. And our last pack of the break. Then we'll do a recap. Kyung Sok Shang, that is for the Dodgers. 118 out of 499. There's a silver prism of Paul Skeens for the Pirates. Hagen Smith for the White Sox on the talisman. And that, my friends, is your break. All right. We'll get this stuff out of the way. And here we go. These are all to $4.99. I will not call out the names. I will just show the cards. All right, here we go. to $2.99. Same deal. To $1.99. All right, to $1.49. Enrique Bradfield Jr., Nick York, Braylon Doty, Ian Kinsler, Lou Gehrig, Reggie Jackson, Franklin Arias, Justin Upton, Dante Norris, Slade Caldwell, Roger Clemens, Cam Smith, Brock Porter, Reggie Jackson, Miguel Cabrera, Jeff Bagwell, Braden Taylor. To $99. Brock Porter, Alex Rodriguez, Bryce Elrich, James Tibbs, Rob Carew, David Ortiz, Ozzie Smith, Jim Rice, Kumar Rocker, Nick Kurtz, Thomas Harrington. To $75, we got Harry Ford, Kendall George, Ken Griffey Sr., Luke Keyshaw, James Triantos, Carson Williams, Brady Sizemore, Jonah Tong. Orange to $49, Trey Morgan, Tony La Russa, Spencer Aghetti, and Cecil Fielder. To $25 on the Mojos, we got Don Mattingly, Gerangelo Cinchte, and James Wood. To $20 on the Cherry Blossoms, Gerangelo Cinchte, Roy Campanella, and Bert Campaneris. We had one true gold, that was Miguel Cabrera. Our numbered inserts. These are to $1.99. We had Nick Kurtz, Fireworks, Talisman, Luis Angel Acuna, Jacob Wilson, Prismatic, Rhett Lauder on the Prismatic, Dingers of Vlad Guerrero Sr., Leo Tavares, Talisman, James Wood, Dingers. To $99, Manny Ramirez, Dingers, Jesus Made, Talisman, Spencer Jones to Fireworks to $25, and Rhett Lauder Fireworks to $25. Our autos. These are not numbered. Gerangelo Cinchte, Angel Chivelli, Hector Rodriguez, Jesus Made, Kalen Culpepper, Robbie Snelling, Slade Caldwell, Josua Gonzalez, Carter Johnson, Noble Mayer, Jordan Lawler, Alex Ramirez, Cliff Lee, Malcolm Moore, George Lombard Jr., Josh Noth, Boston Bateman, Kellen Lindsay. Tim, it could be just you, buddy, because nobody else seems to be having a problem. But I will turn it down a little bit and see if that makes it any better. How's that sound? All right, Jack Leiter, Bobby Miller, Max Anderson, Blake Mitchell to $1.99. All right, $2.99, Carson Benj, Dante Nori, Matt Shaw, Hunter Holland, Tommy White, Ivan Rodriguez, Joseph Redfield, Matt Horvath, Thatcher Hurd. These are blue to $49. Bryce Rainier, Jacob Wilson, and Jake Bloss. To $25, we had Toronto, Will Wagner, and we had Javi Lopez for the Atlanta Braves. Okay. Our snakeskin, Miguel Cabrera, and our case hit color blast is Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge on the snakeskin, on the color blast. There is your break, my friends. Hope you had a good time. Hope to see you all next time. And I will talk to you all later. Have a great night.